Hi there. Happy World Read Aloud Day. My name is Christina June. I am a young adult author, and I'm so happy to speak with you today. Thanks for having me. So I am the author of 3 novels. All were inspired by fairy tales. I like to think of them as coming-of-age novels about kids who have secrets, who are finding their way around the world. And also there's a little dash of funny grandparents and music and art and family dynamics and all sorts of things that make good stories. So here are the books I've written. My debut came out in 2017. It's called It Started With Goodbye, and this one was inspired by Cinderella. It's a story of Tatum who finds herself on house arrest when her best friend's plans go awry. So to make the best of her terrible summer, she does some community service and she starts a secret graphic design business, which leads to some fun emails with a cello playing client and all sorts of mayhem. There's a boys in a band and couple of kisses and some humor, and it was really fun to write. So this was the first book that I ever published. Followed that up last year with Everywhere You Want to Be, which is the stepsister story from the first book. So these are companions, but they can be read as standalone. So this is a stepsister story, and it is loosely based on Little Red Riding Hood. It's about a girl named Tilly who was a dancer who was injured during the school year, so she missed her opportunity to audition for dance companies with the rest of her class. So she, once she's recovered, she gets sort of a second chance to go to New York for the summer and perform. She lies to her mother, says that she's just going for the summer when really she wants to go get a job. So there's a little sabotage, there's a second chance relationship. And this one is really my love letter to New York City. Everywhere that they go and everywhere that they eat are real places that you can actually go. So lots of all my favorites in there. And then coming in this coming May, this is an advanced reader copy, not the real thing yet, but No Place Like Here. This one is the best friend from the first book, who's sort of a really unlikable character to begin with. She's sort of a spoiled rich girl type character. She's just spent the year at boarding school, and she wants to ask her parents if she can come home. And just as she's about to ask, she finds out that dad's going to jail, mom is going to rehab for depression, and she is going to live with her estranged aunt and uncle and work with a cousin she barely knows at a wilderness retreat center. This one was based on little Hansel and Gretel. So again, lots of fun to write. All of these teens are trying to figure out their place within their family and within their world. There's a lot of figuring out the relationship with their parents and with their friends. And so, yeah, so they were really fun to write. A lot of times I get asked where I found my inspiration. In my day job, I'm a high school counselor. I spend a lot of time with kids who are struggling with these very same things, a lot of them and their emotions and the things that they think and their experiences have inspired many of my characters. So, but I will say that It Started With Goodbye came totally from an idea that just popped into my head when I was walking into school the morning after the homecoming dance, and there on the sidewalk was an abandoned girl's dress shoe, just one. So I knew for sure that that was a sign that I need to write a Cinderella story. Lucky for me, this was the book that got me my agent, and it was my first book deal. So it's always very special to me. So I would love to read from the first chapter for you, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So just so you can see what the inside of the book looks like, it matches the cover. This is It Started With Goodbye. Tatum, they have your license plate on camera. This is as good as it's going to get. Mr. Alvis stood at the head of the table at the plush conference room. I stared blankly at him, still trying to process what he was saying. My head was spinning, and it sounded like he was speaking Greek, while his cheeks were stuffed full of mashed potatoes. My stepmother, Belen, poked my shin with the toe of her pointy pump. Tatum, Elsie, Mr. Alvis is trying to help you. I yelped, even though it didn't hurt. You didn't need to kick me, I said loudly, making sure that my dad, Mr. Alvis, and the people in the next office over heard me. Tatum, my dad warned, putting a hand on my shoulder. Tom, could you please run through the deal again? Tatum, you need to listen. This is your future. Yes, sir, I said, eyes down, guilted. The temperature in the room seemed to increase with each second that ticked by on the wall clock. I wiped my palms on my skirt. Mr. Alvis cleared his throat. Right, here we go again. He looked at me over his glasses. You are expected to confirm the figures seen on the security camera at 4:37 p.m. on June 9th, exiting Mason's department store. He pushed his glasses back up on his nose and glanced down at the paper in his hand. Ashlyn Zanotti and Chase Massey, is that correct? Correct, I said, and checked out my reflection in the table's polished surface. This was torture. The official charge for both is grand larceny, because the total amount stolen exceeds $200. Normally in Virginia, you would be charged with the same felony since you were the driver. However, as you have no record, you are issuing this statement, and there was no merchandise found on your person or in your car, the Commonwealth attorney has agreed to reduce it to a misdemeanor instead. Thank goodness for small favors, Belen said. This is still going to affect your college applications, you know. I was reading on the Focused Parent blog about the impact of criminal charges. You'll have to disclose it, Tatum. It was so typical of her to bring up that ridiculous blog. Just because the author was an expert and was on TV all the time did not make him the authority on life. If I'd had the power to take away her voice temporarily, like in The Little Mermaid, I might have used it. I bit the inside of my cheek instead. The silver lining is that we can petition to have your record expunged. Mr. Alvis offered me a sad smile, while Belen exhaled the biggest sigh of relief the world has ever heard. That's good, I said quietly to the table. At least this snafu wouldn't follow me forever. Mr. Alvis continued. Mr. Massey, age 19, will obviously be charged as an adult. Had I heard that right? I picked my head up. Mr. Alvis, did you say 19? Yes, he said, his glasses sliding lower on his nose. Why? My eyes grew wide. He told us he was 17. Belen's hair rustled against her blouse as she shook her head, no doubt with disappointment over the ineptitude of teenagers, especially that of my best friend Ashlyn. It seems that Mr. Massey did more than falsify his age. He also chose not to disclose his long list of previous offenses. Mr. Alvis flipped through the pages in his hand. Vandalism, assault, petty theft. It goes on and on. Huh. I'd always known Chase wasn't a good boyfriend. For sure not good enough for Ashlyn. And his finer points were sadly the reason I found myself in what the Commonwealth attorney wanted to call the getaway car that fun-filled afternoon. But repeat offender? For Ashlyn's sake, I tried my best to look past the scruff on his face, the ink peeking from beneath his sleeves, and the way he leered at me when Ashlyn's back was turned. And for my trouble, for trying to watch out for her, it landed me here, in this uncomfortable wooden seat, between my dad and the step-monster, facing completely ridiculous, unnecessary charges. These are the people she's keeping company with? Belen sat up straighter and eyed my dad from over my head. Not only was she pretty, if you liked robotic, she was tall, and often used that to her advantage when she wanted to remind all of us that she was in charge. I didn't know, all right, I protested. I hope you realize I wouldn't have been spending time with a criminal if I had been aware of that piece of information. My dad and Belen exchanged another look I interpreted as skepticism. I was sure that any trust I had earned over 16 years of being Dad's daughter, and 8 years as Belen's stepdaughter, went right out the window the second the security guard came charging out of Mason's after Chase and Ashlyn. But still, I thought they knew me better. Clearly, I was wrong. So if you want to read more, the book is available at libraries and bookstores and retailers. And I hope that if you read it and you enjoy it, you will let me know. You can find me all over social media. I would love, love, love to hear from you. So when I'm talking to readers and prospective writers, oftentimes I get asked, what is my best piece of advice? So if any of you are interested in being writers, I would encourage you to read. I don't have any formal training. I never took any classes in writing. Everything that I learned is an example or inspired by reading that I have done my whole life, or observing the world around me. So really and truly read everything, study what you're reading, take notes, read things that you wouldn't normally read, so you can get to know what's out there. You never know what might inspire you. And so with that, I would love to issue you a challenge. Since we're still at the beginning of the year, I would challenge you, even if you're not an aspiring writer, to read something a little different. Maybe pick out a book that is about somebody who is very different from you. Maybe somebody who looks different from you, who lives somewhere different, who worships differently or loves a little differently, just somebody who has a life that's different from yours. So I would love to offer some suggestions and books that I have enjoyed that fit into that category for me. And perhaps you'll find something that jumps out at you as well. So I loved American Panda by Gloria Chow. This one is a wonderful story about a girl who goes to college a year early, and she sort of struggles with her place in her family. I also enjoyed Soulmated by Shayla Patel. This is about an Indian American girl who meets an Irish prince, and it's a fantasy. So if you're into fantasy and paranormal, this might be right up your boat. This is Just a Test. This is written by two friends of mine, and focuses a lot about anxiety. So this one is a good, nice contemporary. You'll Miss Me When You're Gone by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is about two Jewish twins struggling with their faith and also struggling with their genetics. Really high stakes, contemporary, great intensity. And another one that I love, and this is a personal favorite because this was written by a dear friend of mine, Catherine Locke, The Spy with the Red Balloon. This is actually a companion to The Girl with the Red Balloon, but they are completely standalone, no spoilers. But if you enjoy time travel or historical fiction, this is about siblings during World War II who are both working on the Manhattan Project. But there's magic involved as well. So anyway, and there's a host of others. So I'm sure if you're looking for new reads and you'd like to take my challenge, I'm sure that you can find some wonderful examples out there. So again, I'm Christina June. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and I hope you have a wonderful World Read Aloud Day. Thanks so much.